Welcome to Collections Corner. My name is Kate Dorr and I'm the Education Manager here at the Harbor History Museum. Today we wanted to share with you the Squally Severtsen canoe. I find this artifact compelling because it tells the story of the interaction between the Puyallup people and immigrants in early Gig Harbor, and it also illustrates change over time. Dave and Annie Squally were members of the Puyallup tribe who lived at Willachet Bay in the Point Fosdick area in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Despite the Medicine Creek Treaty and the Indian Wars of the 1850s, a small group of Native people had remained on the land. Dave was born in the early 1840s and he and Annie were married about 1880. They had 11 children. Here is Annie with 2 of her grandchildren. Unfortunately, we do not have any pictures of Dave. Annie was renowned for her basket weaving. Dave farmed his land and was also known as a great fisherman. Here is the land patent that shows that in 1920, Dave bought the land he had been living on. When Dave died in 1922, the whole community went into mourning. Annie later sold the land and moved to the Puyallup Indian Reservation. Let's look more closely at this canoe that Dave made around 1910. You might say, that doesn't look like a typical canoe. You're right. So let's investigate. The canoe is made from a cedar log. Under the paint you can still see these scrape marks made by a tool called an adze that show Dave used the dugout method to make the canoe. Traditionally, native carvers burn sections at a time and scrape them out with an adze. An adze is similar to an axe but used for cutting, shaping, and scraping wood. Here is a Native American stone adze head without its handle. The canoe would have been maneuvered on the water with a paddle, perhaps one like this. Our canoe does not have the high prow typically seen on Northwest Native canoes intended for turbulent water. We also see many parts that a typical dugout canoe doesn't have, such as ribs, oarlocks, and floorboards. Why are those there? Enter Norwegian immigrant Andrew Severtsen. Andrew Severtsen was born in 1886 in Egersund, Norway, and moved to the U.S. at age 5 with his aunt and uncle. In 1899, they settled in Cromwell, across Willachet Bay from Point Fosdick. He married Effie Chapman in 1908, and they had 5 children. Their family farm reached 60 acres, where they grew crops as well as raised chickens for eggs. This document shows that Andrew and Effie's son Carlton remembered his dad and Dave Squally fishing together in Willachet Bay. Dave sold the canoe to Andrew in the early 1920s. To make it more of a rowboat like he was used to, Andrew added the ribs, seats, oarlocks, and floorboards and painted the boat red, white, and green. Now instead of using a paddle, Andrew could use oars to get around. These modifications were intended to make the boat more stable on the water outside the bay. He needed that stability because to save money and beat the steamboat, Andrew regularly rowed the boat 4 miles across the Narrows from Cromwell to Day Island, where he sold eggs to the food buyer for Tacoma General Hospital. This is one of his original egg crates, which Andrew would have padded with straw for the egg's journey across the Sound. The Squally Severtsen canoe provides a great example of how we look at the details of an artifact and combine those clues with other sources of information to tell a story from history. The canoe helps us learn about the lives of Dave Squally and Andrew Severtsen and how they interacted in the changing times of the early 20th century. I hope you enjoyed this exploration of one of the many fascinating artifacts at the Harbor History Museum and that you'll come down and see the canoe.